and welcome to AfterWords. AfterWords, an opportunity to have a conversation about the inspirational message that we heard today, an opportunity to engage in conversation about how that inspirational message actually inspires us to do something. Welcome to the Bila Kuta AfterWords experience. Today we had the opportunity to hear a sermon about the sisterly imperative. It was delivered by our church's general counsel, the Reverend Erica Neretti Bryant. And to let you know a little bit about her perspective. Reverend Bryant has been a lawyer for over 20 years. She's been our general counsel for 15. She is active in so many spaces and places. In fact, yesterday, she spent her day dealing with the concept of expungement, the idea of giving our sisters and brothers a second chance who have been convicted of felonies or misdemeanors, where that has gotten in the way of their life. So when I tell you that we heard from a sister who walks the talk that she gives, I'm telling you the truth. So we're joined today to have this conversation by a number of, well, not a number, it's three, but three persons who bring different backgrounds. We have Sister Takeda, who is a healthcare professional who has had the opportunity to see women in so many spaces and places with different castes and degrees and whatever, but who all were seeking healing, just like that woman with the issue of blood. We've got Reverend Walimu Olatunji, a historian, a herstorian, and our historian, who has spent his life investing in helping us remember and go back to the past to take from it that which is good and help us move forward. And we're joined by Sister Io. Now, Sister Io is an HBCU graduate, a very, 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 very proud Fiskite, who has chosen as her life's work to figure out, how do we preserve the things that we had? How do we keep them so that each generation can examine them from a different lens? She's a budding archivist, a blooming archivist, that's what we'll call it. And so we have different perspectives, but we all heard the same message, the sisterly imperative. How do we look at ourselves by that which we share in common, as opposed to those things that make somebody an MD, a no D, a JD, or just in jail? So I'd like to start out with our newest and brightest. When you listen to this sermon today, what resonated with you, Aya?
I think that there were a couple of things that really stood out the most. The first is that the process of healing is something that is collaborative, and that your own power and your own sense of sort of commitment to that healing plays a significant role in the outcome. And then also being able to reflect upon that sort of self-empowerment also can empower those around you. And so the sense of faith being carried forward is a significant component in the wellness of not only our individual lives, but in the wellness of our community.
Oh, Lord, yes. KDK, you're there every day with people who believe they have a physical illness. How did that concept resonate with you?
So I see them coming in every day, and yes, they do have real physical illness, but because of that particular age group, it's usually STDs, I must say, with that age group, and that's across all campuses.
Sure.
And so sometimes educating is a big part of it. So we have to educate them so that they will know and that they can learn. Because when Reverend Nariri was saying about how the woman with the issue of blood sought healing, she was healed, and then she became the healer. So what we try to do with our students or our population is that we have to educate them, because a lot of them are very naive about things. And they, of course, they listen to their friends, that group that may have misinformation. So we have to correct the misinformation and let them know, just like with the woman with her blood. It was nothing that they called her, they made her an outsider just because of that one issue. I mean, if you seek healing and you become healed, then it's only natural to become a healer. Because once we educate them about how they got this, what they need to do about it now, treatment, what they need to do to tell their partners, and not only their partners, but their friends and loved ones. Because yesterday at the health fair that I participated in, I told them that sex is everyone's business. It's not a dreaded disease. And I'm saying it's everyone's business because it's up to us elders to teach the younger people, you can live with this. It's not a death sentence. So one of the things also that I got out of it when she talked about the woman with the blood disorder, this is my personal testimony, is that when I was diagnosed with glaucoma at an early age, they said by age 50, you will go blind. And I was like, what? So I was in shock from that. I moved in on the property, well, 5,400 into the apartments. By my next appointment, I had made a miraculous change in my diagnosis, even though I still have glaucoma, but it wasn't as bad and a death sentence as I looked at it, as it was in the early stages when I was first told that. And she wanted to know, my ophthalmologist, who's a sister, who was working with me, wanted to know what my secret was. Well, what are you doing that's different now? And I said, it's my church. It's my belief. It's my faith. I've moved from living into what we consider the slave culture into what we consider property, which is a transformation for me, a whole life change. So if we go out there and it's like we seek and we find, then we have to take what we find and share with other people. That's what I got from the message. You can't
All right,
keep
so thank you. Powerful, powerful. So we hear that a situation is not a destiny, right? That we can, that we are empowered to do something about it ourselves. And that if we get with a group, the group can help us reinforce the positive. Walamu Olatunji, what do you think about all that?
First, I'd like to congratulate our minister for the message this morning. Very powerful, insightful message. And what stuck for me was when she talked about we chasing the pure. And what came to mind is that collectively as a people, we are sick, and that's because we're not self-determined. We are exploited and oppressed. And then, of course, that spirals down to individuals and individual experiences of pain and suffering. And so we're all trying to figure out, how do we stop this issue of blood? How do we find a cure for ourselves as a people collectively and a people individually? And what her message led to for me is that through your faith, you can be healed, but you have to be seeking healing outside of yourself and realize that you have to have an association, which brings to me the idea of organization, that we have to organize in the family, in the community, and in the overall society in order to seek the strength that we need to be healed. Within that process, we find a witness, because faith is somewhat insecure if there is no witness. The sermon talked about Jesus as a witness in the community, and that people who saw Jesus' works believed that they could be healed by this person simply if they touched the hem of his garment. But he was a witness. And within our community, there are many witnesses. So we have to, I remember in Atlanta, Pana Omanifu would say, the world going to present to you curses and blessings. He said, choose the blessings. Choose the blessings. Get organized, be associated with other people, because we hinder our liberation when we separate ourselves, male against female, sister against, brother. That the main idea is that the healing process, there's enough tasks for all to do. So don't criticize people about what they're doing. The issue is, what are you doing? Heal yourself, because Jesus is saying, even greater things will you do. So that's kind of what it said to me.
So Io, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's your good girlfriend from Fisk. It's the girlfriend you grew up with in El Kiblan. It's the brother who has gotten that degree but can't get nowhere in the company. How do we witness in a way that helps them see their power?
Well, that's a great question. I think one of the most powerful things that we can do is just reinforce the idea that we're valuable as individuals, and not because of our title or some sort of association with our sort of community or societal role, and just focus on the inherent value of our community members, because sometimes we focus on those tangible assets, which are power sort of associated, but outside of that, that cosmic energy, that creative power that we all are born with and that we continue to cultivate, is cultivated in those relationships. It is cultivated outside of those professional spaces and outside of some of those other sort of associations. And so just reminding myself and them that we are inherently valuable, and appreciating their contributions as such.
So to KDK, you're sitting there and there's a young woman student, and she's got a 6-month-old baby and a dad of that baby who's not exactly invested, and parents who are telling her, I don't know why you signed up for that school. You got enough to do with that baby. How do you help her? She may have come in just because she's got a cold that won't go away, books that she can't focus and concentrate on. But she's coming to you. What she wants is a pill that'll make her instantly better. But as a healer who understands more about healing, how do you tell her she's enough? She is all that, and it's okay.
Well, what I do with students is I do try to inspire them. First of all, I'm nice. I speak to everyone. That's just the way I was raised, right? Back in the day, you speak to everybody. You talk to them. I have to ask them what are they there for. Now, if a student says, sometimes they'll come and they can't articulate what's going on with them.
Mhm.
So I have to try and bring it out because I don't want to guess and get it wrong. And then sometimes they just can't say it. So what I do is I refer them because they have to see the nurse practitioner or the doctor that is there that day. So sometimes in a situation like that, she needs more than, and I can't tell her there's not a pill, well, that can help her because that's what she's thinking. That could be the way she was raised and she doesn't know any better. So we have to slowly educate her. Now, what in a situation with a sister like that is we have resources, and that's what we would refer them to. We do have a counseling department, and we're talking about these are Black people, us, that want to help us. We're at an HBCU, and we want our students to thrive and be able to compete in the world market. And some of them come to us without the foundation that's needed to succeed, but they're there. So that means they do want to succeed. They just don't have that push. There is all self-motivation. If she's sick, she has a 6-month-old baby and she's in school, that means she wants a better life for her and her child. She wants to do something, but she has to understand, and that's where the education come in. We always have to teach from the time they walk through the door to let her know that there's some steps, there's some things you're gonna have to do, or we can help you. Here's the plan. So we give
you
them
talked about the first thing was to touch before you can teach. Huh?
Right,
You gotta,
you do.
every sister has to look at the other sister as a valuable person first with respect.
Right, exactly.
Well, Olatunji, what are the opportunities that we have as a best self movement to just touch people with soft skills? You know, I don't do Takeda-K's health thing, and I don't understand all about IO's ability to perceive history, see historical moments in spaces and preserve them. But how do I just look at a human and say, you the stuff, I see you?
Well, you definitely have to have a deeper understanding of self. In the situation that we're in as a people, we really don't know who we are. Thanks to modern technology, the seeker is now becoming more and more aware of the richness of our history and our culture. When you are in an isolated individual situation, oftentimes you will find yourself overburdened with problems and issues because by nature we are communal people. And when we understand that from a historical perspective, and then we associate ourselves with the positive things from our culture as a people and avoid the negatives, then we are strengthened to be able to deal with personal situations as well as group situations. We really have all that we need if we turn to each other, and we can answer all the problems, all the issues that we have, all of the sicknesses that we suffer from can be healed overnight if we just turn back to ourselves collectively as a people, because all of the answers are there. Within that collective community, you can find the healing that you need because you have people with knowledge that is beyond your own knowledge. And when you tap into that, you share that insight and understanding, and it is all boats rise. It's a collective healing.
So Io, Sister Io is a very proud and dedicated member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, providing service to her community through that. She provides service to her community through classical roots, sharing with children the joy of old music and the fact that playing Beethoven don't mean you ain't Black. But I meet you in a place one day And I got on all my red and white, like Reverend Noretti. And I'm just like being super duper Delta. And there I meet you being with your green and pink, being super duper Alpha Kappa Alpha. And over there, we got a Zeta Phi Beta sister. How do we let people know you can be proud of the things in which you participate, but feel like you are part of something greater and that we are all sisters from another mother?
I love this question because I actually have two biological sisters who belong to different organizations. My baby sister is a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and my middle sister is a member of Zeta Phi Beta. And of course, you know, being at an HBCU, knowing you and just in all sorts of settings, you meet women who may have different practices, but share similar values or have share similar outcomes. And whether it's literal biological family or sort of a more communal sense of family, we all belong to the same thing. And there's many ways to contribute to the wellness and the sort of thriving of your community. And so I just embrace that someone has stood very confidently in their approach to something, in their approach to our way of life. I was listening to something and the woman talked about belonging, and the sense of belonging is understanding that you belong to a collective and having the courage to also stand on your own when your opinion differs. And I think that that's absolutely it. If I don't associate my sort of perception with your ability to belong, then I can embrace you for who you are. And that's everything that that brings, including the variation of our memberships. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Takeda K, you are much younger than me.
Thank you.
But there's that generational thing we got going where grandma, mama, sister got to tell baby girl exactly what to do, have to judge her because she don't wear her hair like we do, because she doesn't cook her chicken the way we cook it. She does not usher with the hand behind the back like Big Mama did. How do we forge that sisterly imperative that Noretti talked about cross-generationally or intergenerational?
Intergenerational. Okay, so what we have to start with the strengths. Okay, mm-hmm. So we have to be articulate about how we explain things. And like I'm going back to that educating. We don't want to offend a younger generation because we know we went through this growing up, the same thing that they're mm-hmm. going through, just the how do they say it? It's still the same. You know, with each generation, it's always going to be something different that we don't particularly care for that they're doing now. Because I know there were things that I did that my family did not like and probably still don't like, but they're not saying it. They're, you know, they came around. Okay. But however, we don't want to offend anyone because as soon as you offend, what do you get? Resistance. So we want to help them to understand, okay, that's fine, but you can't let YouTube and you can't let TikTok dictate your life. You know, you have to be able to think out of the box. Remember, when I came through the church, it was that critical thinking. And I love that because that was similar to what my grandmother would do with us. You know, if we did something that she didn't particularly care for, she wants to find out what made us do it or why do you think that way? And then she would tell us why this is a better way. So I think it goes back to a lot of helping each other to understand why we do some of the things we do. When they say you should always have a why, you know, we had a 3-year-old that asked why all the time. We as an adult, we have to ask why. People are afraid to ask why, but you don't want to offend anybody. So what made you do this? Well, when you talked about the hair, that made me laugh because remember when I was in high school, I had this big old afro and I was told that I couldn't take my graduation pictures. My grandmother and my mother, they were like, you need to do something with your hair. And I was like, but I like my hair, you know? So I did win over, and I was able to take those pictures with that big afro. Well, I can't get it like that now. But however, so when we go through that transformation, and hair for Black women is a big thing. And we don't want to offend anyone. You see all the young ladies coming in with the weaves all down their back and the nails and the eyelashes and stuff like that. But my thing is, don't forget your purpose. It's fine that you want to look like that, but don't forget that you're more than your look. You're more than the package. You're the gift. You're the talent. You have more to offer the world.
Absolutely. One of our brothers from New Orleans shared with us that African spirituality, that our essence can overcome some difficulties. I was thinking, just a question. One of the parts of African spirituality, Walamu Olatunji, is that we have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth, which kind of talks about how we learn from each other. What are your thoughts about how that interplays with our ability to see each other and talk with each other if we would just listen and see before we talk?
Yes, each individual at birth is born with an inner divinity. However, that divinity must be nurtured and developed by a constructive cultural system. And so we have to develop a programmatic solutions to the problems of our people and programmatic approach to positive and constructive culture within our communities. Otherwise, we will be influenced by a slave culture or counterculture. So oftentimes that inner divinity is covered up with the muck and the mire of a cultural that is counter to the positive growth and development of our people.
Okay, I hear you.
We can't depend on the institutions that created the bleeding to solve the problems for us. So we have to create our own institutions.
The master's tools will never dissemble the master's house, said Audre Lorde. What is the sisterly imperative, Io? 1 sentence. She's praying on it, but she's on mute.
Okay. I think the sisterly imperative is to see and nurture our sisters, 1, as we want to be nurtured, but 2, for their own value, and 3, for the good and benefit of not only our current generation, but for the future of our community.
K to K, sisterly imperative.
That we have to embrace all our sisters. We can't stand back and just let them go on in a destructive manner.
All right.
We
now.
have to help them to heal and move on.
Walamu Olatunji, to all your sisters, what is our sisterly imperative?
Know thyself and then be a witness.
Okay, if I could only sing. So look, for those of you who are joining this who haven't experienced the Bila Kuta sermon on a sisterly imperative, we invite you to go back there, experience that, have a conversation with another sister or another brother. And remember, the sisterly imperative is we will thrive. Thank you for your time, and amen.